The story begins with a popular virtual reality game called The Newgate, which turns deadly when players discover that they cannot log out and that dying in the game means actually dying. The only way to escape is to beat the game. Shin is determined to make it to the end. He prepares to face the final boss, while NPCs warn him to be careful. During the fight, he manages to cut off one of the creature's wings, but it regenerates, so he decides to attack with more speed. After weakening the enemy, he prevents another regeneration with a final blow. The game's system announces that the boss has been defeated and players can finally log out. Shin watches the other players leave the game until he realizes that he is the last one. As he prepares to log out, a new portal opens, leaving him confused since the boss was the last event predicted. He wakes up in an open field and finds his surroundings strange, which seems too real to be a game. Upon checking his interface, he realizes that his attributes have increased due to the titles he received for defeating the boss. He tries to log out of the game again, but cannot find the option. With no network connection, he wonders how he is still playing. He uses an item to try to get home, but on the way he finds a town that did not exist before. Nearby, he sees his house and notices a girl in danger, being pulled out of a barrier. A monster appears, the attackers flee and Shin manages to save the girl. They enter the house and the girl introduces herself as Tiara, thanking him for saving her. She believes he is a friend of her master, but Shin does not know who she is talking about. She mentions that everyone knows Shay from the Moon Shrine, and Shin is surprised, as Shay is one of his supporting characters. He notices that Tiara is suspicious, so he claims that they are old friends and asks where Shay is. Tiara, suspicious, refuses to say, but offers to deliver a message for 1,000 gems. Shin shows her a coin and says that he only has one gale. She is shocked when she sees the coin, as only kings use item chests and a single gale is worth 10 billion gems. Shin finds this strange, since in the game the gale was the lowest value currency. Tiara then begins to question who he is and Shin explains that he is a superior human. But then he discovers that there were only 6 superior humans and that all the others disappeared 500 years ago, during the so-called Twilight of Prosperity. He is confused and she is surprised that he does not know about this historical event. Shin realizes that she is talking about the end of the game when the players disconnected, and understands that he was sent 500 years into the future of the virtual world. He thanks her for the information and offers the gale as a token of gratitude. Tiara is happy with the gift. Shin thinks it will be useful, since elves are good with magic, but she is surprised that he knows she is an elf. Since Shay placed an illusion spell on her, she reveals that she has black hair, which is considered a bad omen among elves, and that is why she was expelled from her village after suffering constant attacks from monsters. Shay changed her appearance and welcomed her into the store protected by a barrier, where she has lived for 100 years. Shin understands that this is why the boar appeared. Tiara says that her hair was silver before. He decides to analyze her and discovers that she carries a curse that manifests randomly. He knows how to remove it and uses purification. Only part of his hair returns to normal, which disappoints him, but Tiara is moved by the result. They leave the barrier and, since they are not attacked, she cries with joy. At the Moon Sanctuary, Tiara explains that Shay will not return for a while. Shin decides to visit the city to learn more about that world. She gives him a letter of recommendation to get through the city's checkpoint. He thinks it is an exaggerated gesture, but she wanted to thank him even more. She promises to let him know when Shay returns. Shin enters the city of Bari. A guard explains that the letter is valuable and can be used in other kingdoms, and can even guarantee an audience with the king. The guard accompanies him to the Adventurers Guild. Shin tries to register, but the receptionist says that registrations take place on the first floor. He goes downstairs and notices that the receptionist looks a lot like the previous one. She explains that she was his twin sister, Celica, and that her name is Cilia. While waiting for the adventurer's card, Celica appears with food and he starts to eat. She watches him intently and he notices something strange. She wants to check the letter of recommendation. The guild master, Barlux, is right behind her and decides to talk to him. Barlux places another letter of recommendation next to Shin's and sees that both react, proving that they are authentic. He explains that these letters are reliable forms of identification and allow access to various places, and are highly sought after. Therefore, he asks Shin to destroy the letter if he cannot protect it. but Shin says that he would not do that, since Tiara trusted him. Barlux is happy and says that they will probably get along well, since they are both recognized by the shrine. The next day, Shin returns to collect his adventurer card. Celica notices that he is wearing simpler clothes, as she considered his previous look too flashy for a newbie. She hands him the card and explains that there are 9 levels of adventurer, from G to SS, and that he can only accept missions up to 2 levels higher than his own. Shin chooses a simple herb gathering mission and says goodbye. While Celica observes how different he is from the others, Shin goes to the forest and, after hours of searching, becomes irritated when he remembers that this mission was basic in the game. Suddenly, he notices an enemy on his radar and finds a level 359 skull-headed monster near a destroyed wagon. Undeterred by the situation, he decides to fight. The creature holds a sword of light, which he finds strange for an undead. His attack is ineffective, and the sword is damaged, so he decides to unlock his limit. With one blow, he defeats the enemy, but the sword is thrown far away. He regrets not having picked it up. The monster leaves a precious stone, which he decides to pick up. The sword ends up falling inside a castle, where the guards are confused. The second princess, Rian, orders an appraiser to be called to check the sword and investigate who threw it into the castle, believing it to be someone very strong. Shin walks through the city and sees wounded soldiers. A guard says that a troop of 12 people was attacked by the monster and only 4 returned. He realizes that the wagon was theirs. The guard also mentions the sword that fell into the castle, and Shin feels guilty. He returns to the guild and Celica notices that the adventurers are gathering to defeat the monster, but Shin reveals that he has already defeated it and shows the stone, leaving Celica in disbelief. She screams that one person alone could not defeat something like that, but is embarrassed to be so close to him. Alice, Celica's colleague, appears, and Celica tells her that Shin defeated the monster. Shin explains that he has no proof, since the equipment he left behind was not valuable. Alice finds this strange, since even B-rank items can be worth a lot. She asks Celica to analyze the stone, since it must contain the monster's energy. Shin asks how often these monsters appear, and Alice explains that many people die in the northern forests because of these creatures. The dead can merge with mana, creating the ideal environment for the formation of undead, but the northern forest does not have as much mana, so theoretically there should not be such a powerful undead. Shin understands that this creature was an exception, and reveals that its level was 359, which leaves Celica and Alice in shock. Celica runs to analyze the stone, while Alice comments that, if this is true, Shin is stronger than a group of a rank. He asks that this be kept secret, as he does not want to draw attention. Later, he goes to a restaurant, and Cilia tells him that someone will be sharing his table with him, since the place is full. A man appears holding a legendary spear called Poison and sits next to him. He introduces himself as Avis, believing Shin to be a novice adventurer, but soon realizes that he is above average. Shin says that he is only on his 3rd day as an adventurer, and that he does not know much because he comes from the countryside. Avis understands why he is not afraid, and comments that they usually call him a vampire because he hunts so many undead. Shin thinks it is because of his pale skin, which makes everyone uncomfortable, but Avis laughs and explains that the nickname is due to his spear, which drains the life from enemies. Cilia brings food, and the two enjoy the meal together. Afterwards, Shin goes to the library to research the decline of glory 500 years ago, but finds almost no records. Meanwhile, Barlux avoids talking about the monster he defeated. Some people wonder who would defeat a Jack and leave his armor behind. Alice comments that perhaps he didn't find the item impressive. An old man comments that people with letters of recommendation tend to be strange. They remember that on the same day the monster was defeated, a sword was thrown into the castle, and they begin to suspect a possible connection between the two events. Barlux asks about the appearance of the sword. Knight Aldi describes that the blade was 2 meters long, made of magical steel and enchanted with the element of light, being as powerful as a national treasure. Barlux recognizes that it is a legendary weapon from a sacred tomb, and Aldi believes that they cannot ignore someone who defeated a monster using this sword. Meanwhile, Cilia eats a kebab in the square and notices a girl watching him. He offers her food, realizing that she does not look like a beggar. The girl is a tigress and introduces herself as Millie, thanking her for the food. Avis appears and explains that Millie is an orphan of the church and that he always has to pick her up when she runs away. He decides to return home, but before he leaves, Millie approaches Celia and whispers something in her ear. During the night, Celia remembers that Millie asked him to rescue a fox in the forest. He thinks it might be a good distraction until Shay returns, but realizes that he forgot to leave a message with Tiara. He goes to the moon shrine and asks Tiara to show Shay his sword when she returns. He says that the weapon can only be used by him, Shay, or someone they indicate. Tiara acknowledges that it is an ancient and powerful weapon and admits to being afraid of it. Shin believes it is because of the materials used and mentions the monsters he had to defeat to forge it. Tiara is surprised by how naturally he talks about legendary monsters. Even so, he asks her to take care of the weapon and gives her special letters that can be used to communicate with him, regardless of where they are. All they have to do is write the person's name and say send. Tiara wonders why he doesn't send it directly to Shay himself, but he explains that he tried and failed. When he tests it with her, the letter is sent successfully, and he concludes that perhaps this is because he has not yet met Shay again in this new world. Tiara is interested in the letters and asks for more, as she wants to study the item as a future mage. He accepts and gives her some before leaving. Shin goes to the northern forest in search of the fox. After walking for a while, he finds a shrine. Upon entering, he senses something strange. Inside the building, he finds a small fox with poison and a curse. He quickly heals it, but this awakens an army of undead. He summons his spear and begins to eliminate the skeletons. When he finishes, the statues around him shatter, revealing two demons he has never seen before, both level 674. They attack him, but he dodges and uses a shadow prison skill, which they counter by creating a curtain of mist to escape. Shin can't see anything, but the wolves keep attacking. The fox shows him a magic circle from where it came, and he realizes that the mist doesn't enter there, allowing him to use his skills. The wolves attack him again, but he uses his prison bow and eliminates them with a single shot. The mist dissipates and the fox jumps into his arms. He tries to identify its breed and discovers that it is an elemental, one of the most powerful creatures in the game. He has never heard of a baby version, but asks if it wants to go with him. The fox climbs on his head, showing that it understands. Meanwhile, Shay receives Tiara's letter and wonders how she got that magical item. She is surprised to learn more about her master. Shin decides it would be best to hide the elemental from the guild, so he thinks about making a pact. He explains that it is a kind of partnership between tamer and creature, hiding the monster's level and species, allowing them to be together. The fox is enthusiastic, so he makes the pact. A symbol appears on both of them. He names her Yusuha, and she seems to like the name. Suddenly, he receives a new message from Tiara, saying that she managed to speak to Shay and is waiting for a response. Shin is excited by the news and decides to go to the guild. There, he reports the army of undead he found in the forest and also looks for a new mission. He finds a request from the orphanage near the church with no rank classification, which indicates that it is a special request. He remembers that Millie lives there, so he decides to accept and visit the place. Upon arriving at the church, a woman named Trya greets him. She asks if he came because of the mission, and he confirms, also mentioning that he would like to see Millie. They enter a room where Millie recognizes him and hugs him enthusiastically. Trya realizes that he is a good person and comments that it has been a long time since Millie has been so attached to someone. Shin asks if that is the fox that Millie mentioned, and she confirms, thanking him for saving her. He tells Yuzuha that he was only able to save her because of Millie, and she thanks the girl. Shin asks Trya about the mission, and she says that it is about a skill successor. He understands that few people have skills now. She explains that she is looking for someone to teach her a specific skill. He suspects that it is something related to healing or poison, but she reveals that it is purification. She knows that it is rare and is surprised to discover that he can teach. However, he imposes a condition. He wants to know about Millie's powers and also receive information from the church, as he needs to better understand that world. Trya hesitates, but Millie assures him that he is not a threat, so she accepts. Traya tells him that Millie has the title of Star Composer, which allows her to have precise and unexpected visions. Shin recognizes that it is a very strong power, and comments that many people would try to exploit her because of it. Traya assures him that she instructed everyone to keep it a secret. She mentions that an adventurer helps the orphanage because he also grew up there. Shin realizes that she is talking about Avis. She says that everyone is afraid of him, and that's why the children feel safe. Shin prepares to teach the skill, but Traya explains that she won't be the apprentice. The granddaughter of the old priest should be the one to learn, since inheriting the church would make everything easier. Later, Yuzuha plays with the other children, and Shin feels a little lonely because she's getting all the attention. He asks if Millie doesn't want to play too, but she doesn't think she can compete with the older children. Suddenly, Yuzuha climbs on Shin's head, and Millie takes the opportunity to stay with him. He realizes that this was her plan all along. At that moment, Anand appears and asks if he's the one who's going to save them. Shin doesn't understand what she means. The girl looks sad and reveals that the orphanage is about to be closed. She explains that the church is without a priest, and someone needs to take over. Shin asks why Traya doesn't take over, but she replies that it takes a specific skill, and that the person sent to replace the priest wants to close the orphanage. The granddaughter of the former priest has the right to inherit the church, but she still needs to possess the right skill. Shin understands why Traya needs his help, but he also wonders why the priest wants to destroy the orphanage. Traya explains that it's because he only cares about money. Later, Traya calls Shin and finds him with the other children. She introduces him to the priest's granddaughter, who tries to introduce herself as Rashia, but ends up getting confused. Traya comments that, despite being clumsy, she is hard-working. They start talking, but Avis suddenly appears to find out who accepted the mission, and sees that it was Shin. Avis asks what his intentions are, but Millie assures him that he is trustworthy. Avis understands that Millie had a vision, so he decides to trust her too. He asks about the skill needed, and Shin explains that Rashia can acquire it by defeating 200 undead with a level higher than 150, while holding a sacred orb. Everyone is surprised by how difficult it is, but Shin reassures the group, saying that he can weaken the enemies so that Rashia can deliver the final blow. And he also has the orb, so it won't be that difficult. Rashia is speechless, but promises to try hard. Avis decides to accompany them, as she realizes that Shin is no ordinary person, coming to an inevitable conclusion. Avis invites Shin for a drink, and asks if he is a chosen one, someone with a special title or knowledge that he should not have. Shin asks if this involves memories of past lives, but Avis explains that it is information about monsters and items, which makes Shin deny being a chosen one. He realizes that Avis is kind, and believes him to be a hero who protects the orphanage. Avis pretends that he does this only to avoid the children's crying, but Shin realizes that he is lying badly and smiles at her. Soon after, Shin receives a message from Tiara, saying that Shay will be back soon, and that she was surprised by how much Shay asked about him. Another notification appears, and Shin sees his letter of recommendation. Avis is surprised to see the item, and reveals that she also has one, which leaves Shin amazed as he realizes that they have something in common. The next day, the group sets off towards the Plains of Ghosts, where they encounter the undead. Shin creates a barrier to trap them, while Avis breaks the creature's legs to immobilize them. Rashia uses healing magic to eliminate them. As this type of magic deals damage to the undead, they continue until they reach a barrier that separates an area with more powerful monsters. Avis uses her adventurer card to open the way, and the group continues weakening enemies so that Rashia can deliver the final blow. Shin explains that once Rashia reaches level 150, she will be able to learn the purification skill. Elsewhere in the plains, Rion defeats a Skull Jack and notices how much easier it has become thanks to her new sword. One of the knights expresses concern about another group, but Shay says she can handle it. She reaches the area where the soldiers are fighting, quickly defeats the undead, and destroys its core. Everyone is impressed. She heals the wounded, and the commander thanks her, knowing that without her help they would have been forced to retreat. Shay claims that their victory was only possible because they had already weakened the monster, but the commander knows that this is not true. He points out that many unusual undead have been appearing recently, and is surprised that she defeated an enemy that not even her entire troop could handle. He understands that this This is the strength of someone who has fought alongside the superior humans. Shay decides to search for more enemies in the area, reminding the group that they can call her using the items she provided. She then runs through the forest, eager to reunite with her master. Meanwhile, Avis faces another Skulljack and easily defeats it, allowing Rashia to deliver the final blow. Suddenly, she is enveloped in a golden light, but Shin reassures her, saying that this is normal when acquiring a new ability. Rashia's mind is flooded with information about how to use purification. Shin congratulates her, and Rashia understands that she can now save the orphanage. He suggests that they rest before leaving, but Yuzua senses a strange presence. Shin notices something in the sky, and Avis expresses concern. Rashia, on the other hand, finds it beautiful. Avis explains that it is the magical matter extracted from the undead. When this energy accumulates, it forms a single mass in the sky that falls in the shape of a giant skulljack. The group soon realizes that it is a skull lord with level 804. They discover that this creature is powerful enough to destroy an entire nation, and Shin fears that the seal cannot contain it. The Skull Lord leaps and hits the barrier with a punch, breaking it instantly. Everyone is startled by the impact, and Rashia collapses to the ground, overcome with despair. The group tries to flee, but the Lord roars and summons an army of undead to surround them. Avis proposes to cross the horde, but Shin's behavior changes. He declares that he will stay to fight. Avis tries to convince him to flee, but Shin removes the power limiter and asks them to take Rashia back to the city. Avis understands the gravity of the situation, and Shin casts a physical strengthening spell to help them escape. Shin clears a path through the enemies so that Avis and Rashia can escape, and then summons his sword. Yuzua uses fire to fight the undead, but the Lord continues to summon more creatures. Shin delivers a powerful blow, creating a crater in the ground. Shay, upon noticing the explosion, runs towards the location. Shin looks at the map and notices that he is completely surrounded, but a blue marker appears crossing the enemies. He remembers that this marker indicates an ally, so he runs to the point and finally finds Shay. They don't have much time alone, so Yuzua erects a barrier so they can talk. Shay throws herself into his arms, and Shin says that he is back, with a tear running down her face. Yuzua's mana runs out, and they decide to face the Lord before continuing their conversation. They combine spells, quickly eliminating the lesser undead. The Skull Lord is also hit, so Shin summons another sword and delivers the final blow. The creature falls to the ground, begging for more power before dying, and Shin is surprised that it can speak. He retrieves the orb and proposes to end the conversation they started. He explains that after defeating the final boss and freeing everyone in the game, a portal threw him 500 years into the future. Shay reveals that she and the other supporting characters did not disappear after the end of the game. They were waiting for their masters, but the continent was plunged into chaos after that, so the group split up to contain the disasters. Afterwards, she returns to the Moon Shrine. Shay is happy to be reunited with her master, but Shin begs her to stop calling him that, as she is now a legend, and that would draw too much attention. He asks her to call him by his name, and she is embarrassed to do so. She asks what his plans are, and he replies that he wants to visit the sacred site and try to find clues to return to his world. Shay has already been there, but hasn't been able to investigate much. She is also saddened to learn that he wants to return. When the sun rises, they decide to return to the shrine to organize a reunion party. Shay notices Yuzua and asks about her. Shin replies that she is an elemental, but notices that she now has 3 tails. Suddenly, Yuzua starts talking, which leaves Shin in shock. She explains that this ability returned after the defeat of the Skull Lord. Shin believes that this happened because she is a boss. He asks Yuzua not to speak in public, and to hide her tails by fusing them into one, so as not to attract attention. Yuzua complies and asks if she is behaving well. Shay finds her adorable and pets her. Shin remembers Avis and Rashia, and decides to catch up with them before they reach the guild. Avis is running with Rashia when she senses something approaching. They prepare to fight, but realize that it is only Shin. Rashia faints in fright when she sees him again. Meanwhile, Rion arrives at the site of the battle and is impressed by the strength of the attack that eliminated the undead. A soldier named Godrez interrupts her, showing her a blade found in the ravine. He recognizes the hawk crest on the hilt. He demonstrates the power of the sword, explaining that, even though it is nearly destroyed, it still carries immense strength. Godras believes that only the blacksmith, the most skilled among the superior humans, would be able to forge such a weapon. Rion is shocked, as he believed that the superior humans were extinct. Godras says he is not sure, but the person responsible is someone strong enough to treat a legendary weapon as disposable. Rion remembers that the blacksmith used to own the moon sanctuary, and suggests they visit the place. Godras asks her what she would do if she discovered that a superior human was still alive. Rion says she would challenge him to a duel, but she would also agree to marry him. Godras begs her not to attack just to test his strength. She assures him that she has common sense, but he doubts her. Meanwhile, Avis demands an explanation from Shin after seeing him with Shay. She is happy to see him again, but Avis insists on knowing what is going on. Shin tries to lie, saying that Shay defeated the boss, but Avis points her spear at him. Avis attacks him, telling him to stop lying, and Shin finally admits that he is a superior human. Shay confirms, acknowledging Shin as his master. Avis comments that the higher humans are incredibly strong and extremely skilled in their fields, to the point that some people worship them as gods. Shin reveals that he is a blacksmith, and even offers to upgrade Avis's spear at a discount, but Avis warns him not to touch his weapon. Roshia finally wakes up and is surprised to see Shay. The group heads back to the city, and Shin asks if it's okay if they say goodbye at the gate. Avis reminds them that the mission was to teach Roshia purification, so that mission has already been accomplished. Even so, Shin gives Avis a message card to contact him if anything goes wrong. Avis tries to refuse, but Shin insists, saying that he doesn't want to abandon the first friend he made in the city. Avis accepts, and heads with Roshia towards the city. Shay comments that Shin never bragged about anything, but always protected the weak. He suggests they return to the moon shrine, and Shay is happy to be with him. They arrive at the shrine, and Tiara rushes to tell Shay about Shin, but realizes they have arrived together. She asks if he will stay for dinner, and Shay replies that it is obvious, revealing that Shin is the owner of the moon shrine. Tiara panics, admitting that she did not take him seriously when he said he was a superior human, but now understands that it is true. She realizes that he is her boss, and begs for forgiveness for her lack of respect. Shin replies that he prefers to keep things informal. He also introduces Yuzuha as his new elemental pet, which surprises Tiara even more. Dinner time arrives, and Shin is impressed by the meal. Tiara has never seen dishes like that before, and he is happy that he gave Shay the ingredients to prepare the food. Tiara notices an aura around the food and asks what kind of ingredients are those. Shin finds it strange, since he doesn't see anything, and begins to list rare meats and vegetables from monsters that are almost impossible to obtain. Tiara is surprised to learn that they are such rare ingredients that no one would think of using them in cooking. Shay explains that aura is the remnants of mana or life force, common in powerful monsters and rare plants. They decide to eat together and enjoy the meal. During dinner, Shin hears about the fate of the other supporting characters, and is happy to learn that they have all gone their separate ways. Tiara suddenly interrupts their conversation, and Shin realizes that she is drunk, so Shay takes her to bed. Laughing as she goes to her room, Shin notices that his room is still the same, and sees Yuzuha sleeping in bed. He lies down, but later wakes up to find Shay next to him. He wonders what happened and becomes upset about the situation, but she hugs him and begins to cry, calling his name in her sleep. He apologizes for leaving her alone. In the morning, Shin wakes up startled to see that Yuzuha has taken human form and is hugging him. He creates special clothes for humanoid elementals, and Yuzuha thanks him. Although she has difficulty putting them on, they go downstairs for breakfast, and Shay is happy to see Yuzuha's transformation. After the meal, they listen to Yuzuha's story. She explains that she tried to stop the cataclysm 500 years ago, but felt an intense pain that subsided inside the shrine. She almost died, but Shin appeared and saved her at the last moment. He says that he only found her because of Millie, and Yuzuha wants to thank her again later. Shay suggests making an elven dessert that Tiara usually makes as a gift, since it is one of their best-selling products. Shin comments that the moon shrine shouldn't be focused on food, but Shay explains that they haven't been able to restock weapons, since only Shin can open the armory. He decides that he will make new blades later. Shay changes the subject and suggests that they meet Gerard. Shin is surprised to learn that he is still alive, since higher beasts only live up to 150 years, and it has already been 500. Shay explains that Gerard has been waiting for Shin all this time. Gerard was the first king of the beasts, crowned after unifying the tribes. The current king is the 8th, and Shay has heard that he is a good ruler, so Gerard should be fine. Shin decides he wants to meet him again and plans to leave the next day. Tiara promises to take care of the shop, but Shay wants her to come along this time. Shay says that there is no need to be trapped inside the barrier anymore, and that now that Shin is back, the shrine can be moved anywhere. Tiara loves the idea. Shin says they need to gather supplies, and Shay says she's going to the kingdom to report on the Skull Lord, so she'll take care of the supplies too. Shin decides to look for a quest on the way to Farid to rank up during the trip, and he also wants to craft swords and replenish his stock. Shay suggests they form a group to talk via voice chat, which is now called telepathy. Shin adds everyone, and Shay also recommends that Tiara register as an adventurer. Shin opens the forge and warns Yuzuha not to touch anything, as some items are cursed. He starts working, but his first blade is of a level far above what is available in the country's stores, so he reduces the quality and replenishes the stock. Tiara puts on her adventurer's clothes and is ready to leave. Shin feels embarrassed when he sees her, and she makes him carry her groceries as punishment for staring at her. Tiara is impressed by the hustle and bustle of the market and drags Shin through the stores. He reminds her that she doesn't know where the guild is, so he guides her there, holding her hand, which makes her blush. Shin's rank increases to E, and Cilia explains that the report on the Skull Lord was verified, which granted him the promotion. Although they cannot gain too many levels at once, she asks about his relationship with Tiara. Shin explains that they are going to travel together, but Cilia doesn't believe him, thinking they are a couple because they are holding hands. He tries to explain that it is not that, but she insists that they have nothing to be embarrassed about. To change the subject, Shin asks if there is any information about the Holy Land, which seems to have been destroyed during the Twilight of Prosperity. She says that only adventurers above C rank can access this information, so he decides to ask again when he reaches that level. Shin searches for a quest on the way to Farid, and Cilia informs him of a request to escort a wagon to a transit point called Beirun, departing from the city of Nayland. They leave the guild, and Tiara comments that they will still have plenty of time together. Shin suggests they take a stroll around town and visit the church, which cheers Tiara up. They enjoy the stroll through the shops and head to the church, where Shin greets Roshia. Tiara introduces herself, and Roshia is surprised to learn that she came from the Moon Shrine. She asks how Tiara became Shay's disciple, and reveals her obsessive admiration for Shay. They go inside, and Millie hugs Yuzuha and Shin. Roshia tells them that she has been named the next priestess of the temple, and Triya thanks Shin. He asks about Avis, and they explain that he went to check on the intentions of the priest who almost took over the church. Shin thinks this makes sense, and asks for a bracelet to be given to him. He also prepared a necklace for Millie, who thanks him. They part ways to retrieve Tiara's guild card, which is given to her by Celica. Shin decides it is time to take the Moon Shrine with them. Tiara finds it strange to take a house with her, but Shin sees it as natural. They go to an alley, where Shin shows a crystal with a teleportation spell attached, which allows them to return to a registered location. Although the crystal is disposable, Tiara is impressed, as teleportation is a lost magic. Shin explains that he can create as many as he wants if he has the right ingredients, and reminds her that he is a legendary superior human. They use the crystal, and Tiara is impressed by the teleportation. Shin then uses a command to store the Moon Shrine, and shows a necklace, revealing that this is the portable form of the shrine. Tiara thinks this is incredible, and Shin decides to go to the mission site. They find the wagon, and an adventurer named Gain greets them. Another adventurer named Tsubaki appears, and since they also accepted the mission, they will work together. The dwarf merchant Nak informs them that he is counting on them to reach Beirun, and the group sets off. At the castle, the king meets with his officials, and receives the news that the Moon Shrine has disappeared. He is angered, as the building has existed since before the Twilight of Prosperity, and no one has ever managed to conquer it, as it was built with lost technology. He believes that the problem goes beyond the borders of the kingdom. They discuss Shay, and according to reports, she is on her way to the castle, due to arrive within a day. The princess claims they have little information to act on, and points out that Rion has not yet arrived. Given this, the king is forced to agree with her. Inside the wagon, Shin thinks it would be a good idea to get to know each other's abilities better. Gain explains that he is a rank samurai, but does not know how to use magic. Tsubaki comments that she is an E-rank fighter and can use support magic to increase her speed. Tiara says that she is an alchemist and has just become an adventurer, but she also knows how to use a sword and bow, as well as simple healing magic. Shin reveals that he is also a samurai like Gain, but can use some fire and lightning magic, and introduces Yuzuha as a monster, explaining that he has a tamer's contract with her. Gain is impressed to learn that a samurai can use magic, and believes that Shin has undergone very rigorous training. He also comments that it is rare for a monster to like someone so much. Tsubaki is surprised that Shin is not from Hinomoto, since most samurai come from there, in their kingdom. Most people choose to be knights or warriors, so those who choose to be samurai are seen as odd. Shin assures her that it is an excellent class, but Tsubaki thinks it is too much work, since a samurai must train as a knight and also as a berserker before specializing. Gain explains that Hinomoto is an island formed after tectonic shifts, and has many samurai-based guilds, which is why the fighters there admire this class. He mentions the names of the guilds, and Shin is surprised to discover that the guilds from 500 years ago have become a country. Suddenly, the wagon stops, and a group of bandits appear. Shin asks Yusuha to protect Nak, and the two hide in the wagon. The group prepares to fight, and Tiara is nervous, as she has never killed anyone before. The bandits think the group has no chance, and demand that they hand over Tsubaki so they can have fun with her. They continue to tease her, which makes Shin furious. Tiara notices a murderous aura about him, and wishes him back to normal, realizing that she needs to shoot him. The bandits already knew that most of them were low rank, and Gain realizes that there was an informant among them. An arrow flies through the air and hits a hidden bandit, starting the attack. Tsubaki uses her speed magic to defeat one enemy. Gain attacks and cuts the sword of another in half. Shin defeats two at once, and the leader realizes that these are no ordinary E-rank adventurers. Shin breaks the leader's sword, who sees a terrifying expression on his face. The bandit is defeated, and Shin demands that he reveal who the informant is, but Tiara holds him back to calm him down. Tsubaki is confused, and Shin asks what she is doing. Tiara notices that his behavior has returned to normal. Shin and Tsubaki are surprised, and Tiara blushes when she realizes that she acted instinctively, doing the same thing Shay did when she was little. The group resumes their journey, and Gain believes that the bandits attacked them because the wagon was connected to the church. Shin begins to wonder what they were really after. Upon arriving in Beirun, Nak hands out certificates of completion to everyone. After filing their report at the guild, Shin asks where Gain and Tsubaki are headed next. They say that they will go to Kilmont and hope to meet him again in the future. Shin realizes that they are still far from Farnd, so he suggests buying their own wagon. They go to evaluate the models, but Shin finds them all similar, so he considers modifying one of them. Tiara worries that he is overdoing it. They find one they like, and the vendor asks if they have bought any horses yet, warning that they may need more than one. As the cart is heavy, Shin considers using Yuzuha as a last resort. He receives a message from Shay, who informs him that she has finished her business in the kingdom. She offers to capture a monster that can pull the cart, saying that she will arrive the next day. She also mentions the commotion caused by the disappearance of the sanctuary, but finds it positive, as she was tired of the constant recruitment attempts. They go to an inn, which is expensive, but they decide that they deserve this treat. Yuzuha relaxes with them, and they all have dinner together. Tiara wants to take a bath before bed, and Yuzuha asks to accompany her. The two go to the bath, but Shin hears the commotion and tries to distract himself by looking outside. Meanwhile, Shay faces a gigantic beast. The next morning, Shay arrives, and the group goes to greet her. Yuzuha senses something ahead, and they see that Shay has tamed a giant jade wolf. Shin recognizes that it is a unique monster, and Tiara cannot believe it. The wolf shows a liking for her. Shin asks why Shay chose that wolf, and she replies that it needed to be a sacred class creature to serve him. Shin thinks the wolf is too big, but Shay expected it and explains that it can become smaller. Shay worries that he doesn't like it, so he assures her that he's happy. Yuzua talks to the wolf and learns that its name is Shimmer. The group sets off towards Farnet, attracting stares wherever they go. Tiara comments on how smooth the ride is, thanks to Shin's modifications. Shay notes that the wagon is even better than the real ones. Yuzua talks to Shimmer as he runs, and we learn that when he was young, he and his mother ruled the sacred mountain. His mother was defeated by an adventurer, and he was the only survivor. He ran away as fast as he could and was eventually saved by an elf, who happened to be Tiara. She remembers saving a cub 100 years ago and is shocked to learn that it was him. Shay offers to transfer ownership of the wolf to Tiara, and they stop to do so. Shay unbinds the wolf, and Tiara forms the contract. She is exhausted after the ritual, so the group decides to rest for the night. Shin asks what Shay's intentions are, and she says that she wants Shimmer to protect Tiara, since she won't always be able to be with her. They approach the forest that leads to Farnet and are greeted by two superior beasts. Shin notices that they are of a very high level. Shay explains that she sent a message to Gerard, so he probably sent the two to find them. The beasts offer them an escort to the first king. Shin packs the wagon and follows them. They arrive at a large mansion, where they are taken to Gerard, who is surprised to see his master after so many years. He bows and introduces the current king, named Wolfgang, and his daughter, named Curie. Shin asks him to stop calling him master, but Gerard says that he does it to make everyone more comfortable, reminding them that superior humans are considered legendary beings. In a flashback, we see Shin and Gerard surrounded by countless monsters. Gerard says he killed thousands of them, but Shin replies that the fight is not over yet, and prepares to continue, telling Gerard to watch his back. Back in the present, they wonder how they managed to survive that battle. Gerard has lost count of the monsters he has killed, and comments that the world has changed. Shin knows that Gerard founded a nation, and understands that Shay told him everything. She confirms that she wanted him to know the truth, because she knew Gerard would exaggerate the facts. She leaves to make tea, and Gerard asks why Shin disappeared for 500 years. Shin tells him everything that happened, and Gerard comments that it wasn't that bad. Gerard sees this situation as a great opportunity, and reveals that his life is coming to an end. He believes that he only has a few months left, as his health is failing. He believes that the gods have heard his prayers, because Shin has returned, and challenges him to a duel. Gerard wants to fight his master before he dies, as he believes that Shin is the strongest warrior in the world. Shin understands that Gerard wants to die in battle, and accepts the challenge. He asks if Wolfgang is aware of this, and Gerard responds that everyone already knows about his condition, and that he intends to warn them about the duel. Gerard talks about his companions, believing that they all understand his wishes, since they are also getting older. He trusts that Wolfgang is a good leader, so the country will prosper after his departure. Shin asks if he has any regrets, and Gerard replies that he does not, but that he does not want to die without having this duel with his master. That night, Gerard informs his companions that he has found the place where he wants to die, and tells them about the duel, which will take place in a week. His allies realize that the moment has come, and Gerard states that his wish will be granted. Curie asks why everyone is so calm, because she does not want him to die. Gerard replies that he has lived a long time, and is preparing for this moment. He believes that he is about to fight the greatest battle of his life, and he wants everyone to watch. Shin appears thoughtful, reflecting on Gerard, and seems sad. Yuzua asks if something is bothering him, but he says that everything is fine. Gerard remembers the moment when Shin disappeared, and reveals that he was filled with regret, thinking that his wish would never be granted. Now, he is grateful for Shin's return, because he will finally be able to have the death he always wanted. Days pass, and Shin observes Gerard's equipment, noticing that it is in bad shape, so he decides to fix it. He hands the equipment to Gerard, and says that he can now fight without holding back. Gerard thanks her, knowing that the duel will take place the next day. He asks if Shin will leave Shay to return to his world. Shin says he will, explaining that he is fighting for this, but that he wants everyone to be happy when he leaves. The next day, everyone heads to the forest. Gerard is excited, believing that this is the best day for a duel. The others climb climb to a high point to watch the battle, and Shay promises to protect everyone from any attacks that escape, so that Shin can focus only on the fight. Gerard tells Wolfgang to take care of the nation, and Wolfgang promises to be a good king. Thanking him for everything he has learned from him, Curie promises that she will become strong, so that she will be a warrior that Gerard can be proud of. Gerard prepares for the duel, and his allies comment that he has never looked so happy. Shin and Gerard begin to fight, and the others watch as the explosion caused by the impact of their powers destroys everything around them. Gerard manages to follow Shin's movements, and his companions are impressed, realizing that he is stronger than they imagined, as he is able to fight on equal terms with a superior human. But Shay knows that the two have not yet revealed their true power. Tiara asks if Shay is also as strong as them, and Shay admits that he would have difficulty against Gerard. Tiara then realizes that Shay is also a beast. Gerard comments that he has developed new techniques to defeat Shin, but none of them are working. Shin tells him to stop holding back, so Gerard decides to fight with everything. He transforms into a werewolf, remembering that Shin promised not to use the title he received after defeating the final boss, as it would make the fight unfair. Gerard knows that Shin could end the fight in an instant if he wanted to, as he is much stronger, but he still wants to fight him with everything he has. Shin tries to attack with magic, but Gerard disappears and counterattacks, pushing Shin back. He uses his ultimate technique and launches a powerful attack that destroys everything in its path. Shin manages to block, but realizes that Gerard is already behind him. He has trouble defending himself as Gerard continues to pressure him with intense attacks, so he backs away, realizing that Gerard is putting everything he has into the fight. Shin decides to fight seriously, and the two unleash their final techniques, causing a colossal clash of energy. Shin realizes that the fight is about to end. Gerard manages to break Shin's sword and sees an opening. He prepares to deliver the final blow and manages to land it, but Shin realizes that Gerard is out of strength, and sees blood coming out of his mouth as he returns to human form. Understanding that his moment has come, Shin admits defeat, and Gerard reveals that he trained for 500 years for this moment, so he is happy to have been able to fight him in the end. Even so, Gerard knows that Shin was still holding back, and asks to see his full power. Shin releases his aura, creating an immense pillar of light. Gerard smiles, happy to be able to witness his true power. Shin returns to the others carrying Gerard's body, saying that he has managed to reach the level of a superior human, as he was able to defeat him in the duel. Curie mourns Gerard's death, but his companions say that he died happy. She realizes that they should not cry, as he left without regrets. Everyone attends Gerard's funeral and pays their respects. Shin, however, still has a sad expression on his face. That night, Shay finds him, notices that he is depressed and hugs him, saying that she is willing to do anything for him. Shin explains that he gave Gerard the fight he always wanted, but he is still sad because his friend died, and begins to cry. Shay says that it is okay, because he did his duty, and he can cry as much as he wants. The next day, the group heads to the city. Shin notices that everyone has beast ears, so Shay explains that elves attract a lot of attention, and are trying to disguise themselves. She asks Shin what he thinks, and he says that she looks beautiful, which surprises Tiara to see her master acting like that. We discover that they went there to meet Zai, one of Shin's old companions, who also attended the funeral as a representative of his country. They go to the place where the representatives are staying, and Shin wonders if Zai also became king, like Gerard. Shay explains that Zai was the first emperor of the Dragon Empire, but he eventually retired. They are led to a room, and Zai appears. He immediately bows before Shin, swearing to serve him again, but Shin tells him to relax. Shay comments that things have changed. They have tea together, and Zai asks what Shin plans to do. Shin replies that he is going to the sacred palace to continue his research. Zai says that he would like to accompany him, but he needs to return to his country first. They decide to keep in touch through telepathy, and when they say goodbye, Shin gives Zai back his old weapon. Zai is surprised to see it after so long, and notices that it is more powerful than before. Shin says that he improved his mana control, while repairing Gerard's equipment, so he was able to make the weapon 5 times stronger. Zai is amazed at how quickly Shin evolves, and Kiri can't believe it. They visit the Adventurers Guild, and Shin decides to increase his level, so he accepts a mission to hunt goblins. Kiri asks to go with him. They enter the forest, and each one easily eliminates a goblin. Shin turns in the mission at the guild, and the receptionist tells him that there is a message for him. The message is from Guildmaster Barlux, informing Shin that he has been summoned by the palace. Tiara wonders why the palace wants to speak to him, and Shin remembers the incident with the undead sword. Panicking. Before leaving, Shin visits Wolfgang and gives him Gerard's gauntlets. Wolfgang reminds him that they were destroyed in the fight, but Shin explains that he was the one who created them, so repairing them was no problem. Wolfgang tries on the gauntlets and is amazed at their power, and Shin says that it is now up to him to pass them on. They say goodbye, and Shin prepares to teleport away, as taking the wagon would be too slow. They return to the site of the Old Moon Shrine, and Shin realizes that they are being watched. Shay believes that the kingdom is waiting for the shrine to return, but begins to worry that Shin may disappear again. Shin meets with Barlux at the guild, and he introduces him to a mage named Arad, who helps appraise gems. Shin wants to know why the palace summoned him, but Arad asks if he knows about the sword that flew into the castle and landed in the princess's room. Shin is shocked to hear this, and Arad comments that the sword is worth as much as a royal treasure. Arad also mentions the gem that Shin left behind when he defeated the undead, saying that the energy in it matched that of the sword, so they figured out that he was the one responsible. Barlux assures Shin that since he has a letter of recommendation from the Moon Shrine, he is in no trouble. However, he informs him that the person who summoned him was the second princess, Rion. That night, Shin explains the situation to the others, and Shay believes that the kingdom may be trying to recruit him or marry him to some noblewoman. Shin is at a loss for what to do, so Shay suggests that he pretend to be engaged to her, or even Tiara. Yusuhu also says that she wants to be his fiancée, but Shin panics at the idea, as she is too young. The next day, Shin goes to the castle, and is escorted by Gadras. He sees that Gadras is level 188 and wonders if he is the strongest knight in the kingdom. Shin is taken to the princess's room and finally meets Rion. Shin wonders why Rion summoned him, and she reveals the undead sword. She imagines that the undead must be strong, so Shin agrees and mentions that he even broke his own weapon during the fight. Rion comments that he is different, explaining that when other adventurers stand out, they are usually summoned, but some have used this as an opportunity for assassinations. Even so, she believes that Shin is trustworthy, but he replies that she has no way of proving it. Rion says that she has the ability of intuition. She decides to get straight to the point about the reason for the summons, and Shin thinks that she is going to ask him to marry her, but suddenly she just asks to fight him. Gadras objects, reminding her that she is a princess and should not make such a request, but she says that she needs to fight to confirm Shin's abilities. She leads him to the teleportation room, and they are both transported to the training ground, built specifically for battles between the chosen. She explains that no one knows who set the teleportation points, and that it has existed for hundreds of years. Shin thinks that this makes sense, since teleportation is considered lost magic. Rion tells him to pick up a weapon, and he chooses a sword. She chooses a two-handed weapon, and begins to wield it with only one. Gadras starts the fight, and their weapons clash. Rion tries to hit him with a kick, but Shin manages to dodge it. He realizes that she is a skilled fighter, so he adjusts his own stats to fight on equal terms. He advances, trying to dominate her physically, saying that he trusts his own strength, but she asks him to use his skills. Shin begins to prepare one of his techniques, but she manages to copy it. While Gadras observes that the two are evenly matched, Shin tries to knock her down, but Rion counters with a blow that destroys the ground, and he is amazed at her strength. She is surprised that he dodged it, and he admits that he would have died if he had been hit. She acknowledges that he is a capable fighter. Shin suggests ending the fight, since her sword has reached its limit. Gadras says that she has achieved her goal, so she agrees to end the duel. Rion asks Shin to join her, saying that the kingdom needs him, but he refuses, stating that he prefers to live as an adventurer. She respects his decision, Shin asks why she has the undead sword, and she replies that the sword fell inside her room. She tells them about the custom where a man offers his sword as a symbol of betrothal, and says that she considered the sword a gift. Shin explains that it was an accident and that she never intended it. Godras warns them that some people intend to use the incident as an excuse to arrest Shin and force him to serve the kingdom. Rion suggests treating the sword as a tribute so that they will stop bothering him. She wants to keep the sword and says that she is willing to pay for it, as she knows it is worth a fortune. Shin replies that he does not need money and asks for access to the magic library, saying that information is more valuable to him. She accepts his offer, saying that she has always wanted to use the sword. They return to the teleportation room, but realize that the guards have been defeated. They see the priest Gerald, clearly under control. Godras tries to stop him, but Rion and Shin suddenly disappear, appearing in the ruins of a city. Rion recognizes the place as a sacred land and wonders why Gerald lost control. They decide to return to the palace, but Rion reveals that he cannot use telepathy since he is not part of a group. Shin decides to contact Shay. He reports the situation and says that someone is controlling Gerald. Shay understands that mind manipulation is a type of forbidden magic and realizes that they are dealing with a dangerous individual. Shin says that he does not want to use teleportation right now so as not to attract attention, and asks Shay to take care of everything and meet him in the neighboring city of Valmar. Shay informs Tiara that an emergency has arisen and invites her to go with her to the palace. Along the way, Shay reveals that a demon is involved in the incident. Tiara knows that demons are monsters born from miasma. Shay explains that they can take the form of other monsters, and that they are classified by threat level, with humanoid demons being the most dangerous. She believes that they are dealing with a Count class demon who must be at least level 300. Tiara says that she is far from that level, but Shay reassures her, saying that she does not need to fight. Shay uses a concealment spell that makes them invisible and jumps over the walls, saying that they are going to infiltrate the castle. They get past the guards and go down to the dungeon. Shay tells him that the demon has already been captured. She casts a spell that puts the guards to sleep, takes their key, and opens Gerald's cell. Shay says she knows what happened, but he says he doesn't remember everything. She suspects that the demon has altered her memories. Just as she is about to undo the demon's spell, she is attacked. She defends herself, and the demon named Magnu appears. Magnu recognizes Shay and tells her not to get in his way. He tries to kill her, but she easily defeats him. He asks her why she is protecting Gerald, and she replies that she doesn't want him to die because she knows he is innocent. She also says that she needs to eliminate Magnu because of Shin. Magnu realizes that she serves a superior human. He tells her that the world is collapsing, that the era of humans has come to an end, and invites her to join him. Shay refuses, so he mentions that her master has abandoned her and will never return. She gets angry, says that he knows nothing, and decides to fight seriously, killing him instantly. Afterwards, Shay goes to the king and tells him that a demon was behind the incident. The king is worried, as he knows that demons are dangerous, but Shay reassures him that Rion and Shin are fine. Everyone is relieved. Gerald apologizes, and the king forgives him, knowing that he was manipulated. The king asks him to continue serving the kingdom. Shay says that the people would panic if they knew the truth, so the king decides to keep the secret. She tells Tiara that it is time to find Shin, and the two head to Valmar. Meanwhile, Rion explains to Shin that the sacred lands are cities that fell during the twilight of prosperity, and she believes they are filled with powerful monsters. She reveals that she brought the undead sword and asks about Shin's weapon. He tells her not to worry, as he considers hiding his true strength, as he fears that she will not let him leave if she finds out how powerful he is. She tells him that her people have investigated this city before, entering through the south gate, where they found a small door with a device to open the gate. Shin tries to climb over a wall, but is teleported back. He says he knows why, and shows Rion a sphere of light, explaining that the entire city is a dungeon, and they can only leave by following the spheres. They touch the sphere of light, which takes them to another place. Shin notices a monster nearby. They decide to confront it, and see that it is a ghost-type monster. Shin explains that it uses wind magic. The creature summons a powerful whirlwind, but Shin cuts it in half, opening up space for Rion to attack. Even so, the monster is still alive, so Shin lands the final blow. Rion asks about his sword, Realizing that he has been hiding it, Shin says that it is an extremely rare item and calls it his secret weapon. They advance deeper into the dungeon and encounter a giant slime. Rion thinks it is weak and charges at it, but the slime traps her. Shin uses an ability to save her. She realizes that she was reckless, and he explains that slimes are immune to physical attacks. He uses fire magic, melting the slime and exposing its core, which Rion manages to destroy. She notices that he is looking away, and then notices that his clothes are torn. He hands her his own clothes. Shin asks if she knows how to use magic, and she replies that she is not good at it. He teaches her a trick that involves a sword in flames. She cuts a rock and realizes that it has burned. He says that the technique will be useful in battle. She wonders why he taught her this, realizing that he always helps her and never asks for anything in return. She then says she wants to pay him back, but he only asks her to protect the people of his kingdom, saying that that is all he wants. They reach the gate, but Shin starts to feel strange. He says it feels like he is being sucked by something. They see a giant egg blocking the way. Rion comments that monsters don't usually hatch from eggs, so Shin believes this is different. A griffin made of ice emerges from the egg. He realizes that the creature is about to attack them, so he jumps away with Rion, realizing that the griffin can freeze everything with its breath. She asks how they are going to defeat it, and Shin says that he will distract it so that she can attack it from behind. She accepts the plan, and he throws his knives at the griffin, causing pain. Rion sees the opening and hits the monster with everything. Shin finishes it off with his flames, burning its head. They think the fight is over, but the griffin regenerates, which surprises them. They decide to run away, and Shin says that he has a plan. He asks Rion to find the device to open the gate, as he believes the griffin was created by magic, and the only way to defeat it is to turn off the spell that regenerates it. He says he will face the griffin alone, and Rion asks if he will be okay. Shin assures her that he will. She starts looking for the device. While he prepares to fight, he removes her limitations, because he believes they will only survive if he fights with everything he has. He cuts off the griffin's head, but it regenerates immediately. He decides to test all its power, wanting to see if the creature can resist. Rion finally finds the device he was looking for, while Shin realizes that the griffin does not die, no matter how many times he defeats it. Faced with this, he begins to consider sealing it. Suddenly, he sees a white sphere and feels that strange sensation again. He tries to destroy it, but fails, realizing that it absorbs his attacks. Then, his body begins to glow. The sensation disappears, and he charges at the griffin. During the attack, he notices that the creature has stopped regenerating. The griffin tries to freeze him, but Shin steps forward, activates his fire magic, and delivers the final blow, causing the monster to explode. He wonders what just happened. Rion asks about the griffin, and he explains that he managed to defeat it. They escape the dungeon, and Shin tells them they are going to Valmer, where they will meet their companions. That night, they make camp. Shin says he will stand guard, and asks Rion to rest. She asks why he has everything they need, and he replies that he is used to traveling. Suddenly, she tries to impress him, but he says he is not interested. She asks if he finds her attractive, and he realizes that she is serious. Rion explains that she likes talking to him because she is tired of being treated like a princess all the time, saying that she does not enjoy the company of others. He tells her that she can talk to him whenever she feels lonely. However, he notices that she is clinging to him, saying that she is enjoying the moment, and he decides to stay with her. The next day, Shin wakes up feeling that something is wrong. He sees an army of monsters approaching Valmer. Rion says that it is the Flood, an event that Valmer often faces, but which always causes victims. She says that the group of monsters seems more threatening than usual. Shin doesn't want anyone to die, so he decides to protect the town. When they arrive in Valmer, Rion instructs Shin to go to the Adventurers Guild. While she goes to speak with the local lord to gather the town's warriors, Shin meets the guildmaster, Lact, and warns him that the Flood will arrive in a few days. Lact is skeptical, but Shin shows him his letter of recommendation and explains that Rion is with the local lord. Lact realizes that he is telling the truth and declares a state of emergency, assuring him that the guild will participate in the defense. Shin says that he will fight too, and Lact expresses relief at having him around. Afterwards, Shin sees a shop called Meowland and feels like he has seen it before. He mentions this to Shay, who says he is unfamiliar with the place. Shin meets an elf named Barrett, who he recognizes as a friend's old support character. They talk, and Shin explains about the flood. Barrett asks why he didn't deal with the threat himself, since he would have been capable of doing so. Shin replies that he did it for Rion's sake, as he doesn't want her to discover his powers. Shin asks about Meowland, and Barrett explains that the shop belongs to an old friend of theirs, Hibiniko, and says that other players are also in the city. Shin is surprised, as he thought Hibiniko had died in the deadly game. Barrett shows a list of living players, and Shin recognizes them all. Barrett then shows another list, with names of player killers, revealing that Shin hates them all, since they killed his friends during the death game. Barrett says that it was Shay who gave the order to hunt down these killers, and wonders why she kept this from Shin. He suspects that Shay is hiding something, but also believes that she would never betray Shin. Shin asks if Barrett will participate in the battle, but he says that it is not necessary, since Shin can protect the city alone. Still, he states that he will return for the loot, reminding her that he has always liked money. The next day, Shin meets with Shay and Tiara, and together they go to the Lord's castle to meet with the Chosen. Shin internally wonders why Shay did not tell him about the killers. She notices that he is acting strangely, but he decides not to say anything. At the castle, they meet Lord Toro, who explains the defense plan. The Chosen will form the front line. The knights will stay behind, ready to fight any monsters that pass by. Shay's squad will provide support from a distance. Shin notices that there are no monsters outside the castle and reports this to Toro, thinking it is because of the flood. Toro does not believe her, saying that this has never happened, but Shay confirms that she has seen this before, saying that the monsters have joined the flood, led by a chief. Toro believes her. Shin remembers that this had happened before in the death game and thanks her for explaining it. Later, he thanks Shay for handling the situation and asks if she has used any advanced magic since he disappeared. She says no, as her basic spells were enough. Shin decides to hide his powers. He asks her to use an advanced spell at the beginning of the battle, saying that he has a plan. That night, everyone prepares for the fight. When the flood appears, Shay uses a powerful spell, destroying several monsters at once, but the monsters continue to advance. Shin realizes that this flood is different and asks if she can cast the spell again, but she says it's on cooldown, so he decides to engage in combat, burning the monsters with his flames, but without using all his power, so as not to draw attention. Rion orders a general attack, but a huge explosion occurs when Tiara uses her new ability, realizing that it is extremely powerful. Rion cuts through several monsters, but a huge enemy appears, and she has trouble. Avis appears and the two fight the monster together until they defeat it. Rion asks what he is doing in Valmer, and he replies that the guild asked for help. He says that Millie was worried about Shin, but now sees that it is not necessary. Shin, using a disguise, saves a group of soldiers and says his name is Red. He warns them that he must flee, as his new weapon can kill them. They retreat, and the weapon activates. Avis recognizes the item as cursed, as it consumes everything it touches. The weapon tries to trick Shin into destroying everything, but he ignores it. Shin sees a demon and realizes that it is the one leading the flood. The monster tries to mind control the knights, but Shin is immune. He removes his restraints and attacks with force, cutting the demon in half. Shay helps the knights recover, and the city wins the battle without losses. Shin's group is invited to stay in the city as a token of gratitude, but he wants to leave. Shay says they need to respect Valmer's customs. They go to the banquet, where they meet Rion. Shay asks if Shin has been with her, and he denies it. Rion notices that he is acting strangely and starts teasing him. Shay walks away to leave them alone, but Tiara notices the mood and entertains Rion, asking Shin to get drinks. He joins Shay and asks if she was jealous. She confirms and says that she knew he had found out about the player killers, apologizing for hiding it. She says she didn't tell him because she didn't want him to go back to the way he was before, believing that he would turn away from her to hunt them down. She believes that she will never be enough for him, as she cannot replace Marino. Shin hugs her, tells her that it is not her fault and that he is glad he found her, as he did not not know what to do when he returned to the world. He forgives her for the secret and tells her that she does not need to hide anything. Shay asks him if he still loves Marino, and he confirms. She kisses him and tells him that she knows he will return to his world, but that she will not give up because she loves him. They return to the banquet and enjoy the night together. Shin reflects that the world still holds many mysteries and that the player killers may target him next. But now that he knows that there are other players alive, he decides to look for them, continuing his journey with his friends, hoping to find the answers he seeks.